It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions.
Touchdown, San Diego!
Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Monday? We do. From the DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, we welcome you to our Monday bonus podcast. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host who broadcasts from left field, John Riley, and one of our great friends, the coach, John Kentera. We're welcoming you to a unique Monday bonus podcast. Our podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 stores to serve you in San Diego. You got projects, you should consult with them about ideas as well as the structure of what you want to get done. DIXIELINE. And by North County Eye Center of Poway and Escondido. We all need help with our eyes. When that time comes, think North County Eye Center, Poway and Escondido. Full disclosure. Spent my whole life doing sports talk radio. Full disclosure, John Riley has been a sports talk junkie. Full disclosure, we've talked about this guy for a long period of time because he's been my teammate. I've been his teammate for a long time, the coach, John Kentera. Welcome. This will be different. This will be fun.
Oh, it's always fun, Lee. Thanks for you and John having me today. I've been looking forward to coming out here, and what a great setup.
Yeah, John's got a better TV studio than some of the other TV studios that I've worked in the San Diego market. Hey, before we got started, a couple of business items. One, at the end of our podcast, it's your turn to join us. It's called Fans Forum. John, explain how all the people on our live stream can join us.
Yeah, so if you want to get involved in Fans Forum, you got a question for the coach or for Hacksaw, just type it in the live chat on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, and we'll get you involved in Fans Forum at the conclusion of Hacksaw's Headlines.
And a reminder, if you like sports, check my website. It's all written every day of the week. Every morning it's posted, leehacksawhamilton.com, and on the homepage, there's a huge orange box. Register to join Hacksaw's Insiders Group as we roll out things we're going to try to get done in 2024. You'll get all types of insight. Want you to subscribe to what we're doing. You'll get the immediate alert, even at 2 o'clock in the morning. Every time we put something up on our YouTube channel, you will get the alert. And we want you to tell your friends, share, and give us a thumbs up. Give us a 5-star rating along the way. That's business. Let's talk sports. John, you got the topics on the table. Where do you want to start?
All right, we got to go Padres spring training here. Answers and questions, Lee?
Yeah, let's talk about the Padres. They're getting to the middle of the Cactus League before they leave to go to South Korea to open against the Dodgers. When this thing opened in February, mid-February, questions in left field, questions in center field, question about pitching depth, question about the guys who came. Well, here's the scorecard at the middle of the Cactus League. Michael King, the ex-Yankee, pretty impressive. Drew Thorpe, who has dominated in the minor leagues, really impressive in exhibition games. Randy Vasquez has pitched well in a couple of starts. Adrian Morion's had a couple of one-inning outings, has yet to give up a run. We've seen the flashes of the Japanese and the Korean relievers, Yuki Matsui and Wook So-go. Okay so far. Matsui probably be back on the mound this weekend. The big story is what's going on in the outfield. And they've tried really hard with Jackson Merrill. Jackson Merrill struggled to get above the 200 average offensively at home plate, but he's playing really well defensively. However, Sugar Azúcar has had a really good spring. I think he's hitting 286. Oscar Mercado, who came from the Indians, the Phillies, the Cardinals. He's hitting in the 320s with power. And they just signed a journeyman, ex-Cub, ex-Yankee, ex-Met, Tim LeCastro. He's got 5 hits in his first 6 at-bats, and he's got 4 RBIs. And in terms of guys not having good springs, we don't know about Joe Musgrove. He got knocked out of the first inning each of his 2 starts. Doesn't look like he's ready. Maybe he stays here as part of extended spring training. Robert Suarez doesn't look as dominant as he needs to be right now. I think he'll be there on opening day. I think it's been a good spring training camp because they've had so many of the young guys that came in the Yankee transaction, and the guys they signed suddenly look like, hey, they can contribute even if it's coming off the bench. Talking about Mercado, talking about LeCastro. So first half of the Cactus League, I give them a thumbs up. A lot better than I thought they would. Now, granted, it's different than opening day. That's what I say. What does Riley say?
Okay. Well, let's just say this, that I think I'm excited about Merrill. I'm excited about Salas. I'm excited about DeVries. I think the future looks bright. But I'm not sure what to make of the outfield right now. We still don't have an answer for left field.
He's got opinions on everything, Padres coach.
Well, boy, we got a lot to chew on with that gentleman. As far as left field, I think Profar, after they sign him, he'll probably be the left fielder. I'm still concerned about center field because you're asking Jackson Merrill not only to come to the big leagues and be a hitter and get your feet on the ground after 800 minor league at-bats, but you're also asking him, first he was going to play left field, now he's playing center, and he said the other day that he feels more comfortable in center than he does in left right now. But again, I don't know if this kid's ready, and really I think it's more than anything else. The Padres, are we looking to go into a rebuild with some of these young guys, or are they looking to win a championship here? I mean, a year ago we're talking about going to the World Series, having a parade on Harbor Drive. Now we're just trying to put together a 26-man roster to get the season underway. What are the expectations of this ball club this year? That'd be a big question that I have right now.
Well, a week from now, before they open in South Korea, we'll pick out a record and we'll talk about what we like in the division. That being said, they're looking for complementary parts to the four established guys that they've got who've got to hit back. That's the whole key to the Padres is the Fab Four has to hit back, and it won't be Soto in the batting order. But Mercado has hit in flashes other places. LeCastro, he's been in a lot of different camps on a lot of different teams. He keeps resurfacing, which leads me to believe, John, he's probably a major league player or a major league utility guy. So I don't think Merrill's ready, and why would you put him in there if these other guys have already got major league experience? Let Merrill just grow as an outfielder and start him at AAA or AA and just see what happens there.
He's played 46 games at AA.
Yeah.
Okay, he's 20 years old. Let the kid grow and mature and get an opportunity to develop. And when you do bring him up, I mean, there's always a chance when you bring a guy up the first time that he's probably going to get shipped back at least once, if not a couple of times. But, let's look at this a year from now or maybe even later this year. Now, as far as Oscar Mercado, Padres had him in AAA for a while last year. I thought they should have brought him up last year. Mm-hmm. I think right now he's won a job on this roster. As far as LeCastro, his greatest asset is being able to run. He stole 45 out of 50 bases at the big league level. He's like a 226 hitter. He's really a fifth outfielder. And really, to be honest with you, he's the type of guy when the rosters expand by a couple of players in September, you bring him up and let him be that extra guy that can steal a base for you if you're in a pennant race. But
what concerns you about the pitching staff? Are you as scared about this capsule thing and the fact that Musgrove has made his bones throwing hard sliders? There's a wear and tear factor. What do you think happens to him? How do they handle this? Because he's sure not ready, I don't think.
Well, he threw on the backfield the other day. And Joe had said his first couple of times out that he was working on a different slider. Now, Lee, you and John, we've all been to spring training. Okay, breaking balls in Arizona can be a little bit dangerous. I remember when Woody Williams pitched for the Padres way back when, and Woody'd come out of spring training with an ERA, north of 30, and everybody was worried. But, he'd get in the regular season and get it rolling. I think the biggest thing with Musgrove for me, get out of spring training healthy.
Yep.
Where's he at velocity-wise? If his velocity's there, that slider's going to eventually come back. And I think he probably went back to throwing his old slider. And the same thing, even though Darvish has looked really good, going to be 37 years of age, and he's throwing a lot of big league innings. And when you throw in the big leagues and all those innings in Japan, they add up. And you never know when a guy's going to run out of bullets. But, and you brought up the point about Michael King. Michael King's a good pitcher. Yep. I mean, he did a good job last year. I think Brito's got an opportunity, even though he's going to have to get away from serving up that routine gopher ball. He gave up a few too many homers last year. Vasquez has got a chance, certainly. And Drew Thorpe, in his one time that I saw him pitch, he pitched very well the other day. But again, you're asking a guy that played at three different levels last year, got to AA. Granted, he was 14-2, only his first year of pro ball. Let's give him a little bit of an opportunity. And I could see at some point in time him maybe getting an opportunity with the big league club this year.
And the relievers, Matsui and Go, they've only thrown one time each. And Matsui is coming off this back issue. They think he'll be ready by the weekend. I look at these guys and they're really different. Go has got velocity. Matsui's got velocity, and he's built like a fire plug, physical, but really small. What do you think of them?
Well, I've not seen a whole lot of I saw Matsui throw the one time out. I thought he looked really good. Go, I've only seen on tape. He looked awful good. I mean, I think Padres got a couple of guys that are going to really help this ball club. Now, as far as Matsui, they're saying he's making progress from a back, but you know how. I mean, you could sit in a chair and stiffen up, and all of a sudden you can't straighten up when you get out of that chair. Be interestingly, with the early time to head out to Korea, we'll have to wait and see if he's on that plane. It wouldn't be surprising to me if they end up leaving him at home. We'll have to wait and see how that thing progresses.
Yeah, they have to take 28, and then they have to cut to 26 for the games against the Dodgers. John, you sit here and listen to us smart guys talk. You're the fan here, so give us an opinion.
Well, first of all, I'm having microphone trouble. People are already alerting me about this. So let me fix this. You guys keep going.
Okay. Next topic on the table, John. We go from Padres to
Dodgers. Here we go.
Here's a question, Coach. Dodgers spring training, they're 9-2 right now. Dodgers unbelievable payroll. Very impressive roster. Is this season a referendum on Dave Roberts? Dave Roberts' career record is 753 and 443. He's got a .630 winning percentage. However, postseason, he's only 45 and 39, one World Series. In the last 3 years, the Dodgers have won 317 games. They've won only one playoff series, and they're 7-12 in the postseason with all this talent. So is it on the manager? Is it on the players? Is it on the analytics? Is this a referendum year on Dave Roberts?
I don't know if it's a referendum year. I will tell you this. I think a lot of this goes to Andrew Friedman and his front office.
There's a second guy in the studio that thinks the same thing.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to tell you why, Lee. I think, during the regular season, we've seen it with a lot of teams. Like Oakland, when Bob Melvin was there, you can navigate through a 162-game schedule, mixing and matching guys, over the long haul. But come playoff time, it's a different animal. A totally different animal, and you got to trust your players a little bit. And I think the Dodger front office, they go into those playoff games, it's too much scripted out. You got to go with your gut feeling. When you got a big time pitcher out there, you're not going to pull him after 4 1/3 unless he's in really dire straits. And we've seen the Dodgers
do it again.
And it looks like Dave Roberts is over managing, which he is. But he's getting a directive from up top, and it's that simple. I think anybody that's been around the Dodgers for any length of time knows exactly what's going on. I think this is more of a front office issue than it is a Dave Roberts issue. But with that being said, the offensive players, I think Mookie Betts, he didn't get a hit in that playoff series last year. I think a lot of the players have to, offensively, they've got to take the brunt of that. But as far as the way the pitching went, I'm putting that more on the front office than Dave Roberts.
So do I. And it's happened, and it's happened, and it's happened. How many years in a row, how many series in a row about overuse of the bullpen, early use of the bullpen, inserting Kershaw in the bullpen, Scherzer, etc. But like you, I tend to think that came because it came in a memo from the analytic guys upstairs. John Riley, have you got an opinion?
I do, but I'm trying to debug my microphone.
Okay.
So you guys just keep going.
Okay, final Dodger comment. So what do you think changes? Ohtani, Yamamoto, Glasnow, and Paxton. How really good are they going to be?
Well, if they can stay healthy, they're going to be absolutely fantastic. Obviously, Ohtani's not going to pitch this year. And to be honest with you, Lee, even before he signed with the Dodgers last year on the talk show, I was saying, whoever signed him, they ought to make him a closer. Rather than being a starting pitcher and, go through all that rigmarole and wear and tear on him, let him close out games 3 days a week. I mean, one inning 3 days a week is not going to hurt you where those innings add up. And, he's got great arm action. And normally the old saying used to be, guys with bad arm action, you put them in the bullpen because appearances aren't going to hurt them, but innings are. Well, Ohtani's coming off a second severe, and I don't know exactly. Nobody's seen. Everything's a secret with him. We don't know exactly what the injury was and what the surgery was. We presumed it was Tommy John, but I don't think it was maybe as serious. But, after 2 serious arm injuries, put him in the bullpen, let him swing the bat, and let him be your closer.
Okay, we go from Dodger baseball to kind of news and notes around the major leagues. Okay, this is about what just happened this weekend and what's going to happen next weekend. We're talking about Blake Snell, still unsigned. We're talking about another club entering the negotiations, the Phillies. We're talking about the Giants, who looked like they were in on Blake Snell and now seem to be out on Blake Snell with the arrival of Matt Chapman. It's really been interesting, John, as to how this has all changed. The Phillies today signed Zach Wheeler to a $40 million extension. Now, does that take the Phillies out of Blake Snell? Because the Phillies spent a lot of money early on in the offseason with Aaron Nola. We don't know whether the Phillies still want to get involved with Scott Boras and Blake Snell there. The big issue is Scott Boras, if he's going to go from a 7-year offer at $210 million, if he's willing to take 3 years at $90, he wants opt-outs after the first and second year. Well, if I'm a GM, because he was offered by the Padres, you have to give up 2 draft picks to get him. And if it pushes you into the next tier in the luxury tax, you have to pay a significant tax. This is why the Yankee deal, even though it looked fascinating, doesn't make any sense. If they sign Snell to $30 million a year, they pay a $33 million a year tax per year on Snell. They lose $100,000 international signing money, and they're going to lose slots in the amateur draft. They dropped 10 slots because they've been over the luxury tax for such an extended period of time. Same thing with the Giants. And why would you sign anybody and give them an opt-out after the first year, considering all the things you have to forfeit in addition to paying Blake Snell $30 million per year? So I don't know if Boras has overplayed his hand, if the general manager's standing up and saying, not on my watch. I'm not going to do this because of the massive cost around just the contract. It's going to be fascinating to see, and I guess the question is, has Snell made a bad decision?
Well, I think Blake's got a lot of things on his plate. He and his girlfriend are getting ready to welcome a child here before too long. He's up in the Pacific Northwest coaching youth baseball right now. He's a good guy, Lee, and I certainly wish him the very best. But, I think Boras probably overplayed his hand. I mean, when you look at Blake Snell, as well as he pitched last year and as well as he pitched that year in Tampa when he won a Cy Young, those were his only 2 good years in the big leagues, to be honest with you.
Yeah, up and down like the stock market.
But you know what? You hope that what you saw last year he can repeat. And I think Ruben Niebla did a really nice job with him. I think he was very well focused. I think he was a more rested pitcher a year ago. I know he got away from playing a lot of those video games late at night. He used a lot of energy up on that. Right now, the way things are going right now, I could see him maybe getting even a 1-year deal and try to replay this and go for it again next year. Right now, I mean, the clock is ticking.
But here's the issue, Coach. Even if it's a 1-year deal, somebody can afford 30, you're going to pay the contract, and you got to give up the draft pick compensation at 2 and a 5 for 1-year rental. I don't think that's not a good business venture.
Well, the only way you do that is if you got a team and you feel this guy can put you over the top to where you can win the World Series. And what team is that? The New York Yankees, okay? The Dodgers, I think they're done. I thought the Giants were definitely in play, but, signing Matt Chapman, that's probably taking them out of the Blake Snell sweepstakes. And, we keep hearing the Angels are kicking tires, but, does Artie Moreno really want to do that? Does he want to get into another long-term contract? So, I think the time's running out on Blake Snell and Scott Boras right now. It may end up being a very short, maybe a 3-year deal with a couple of opt-outs in it. We'll have to wait and see.
And speaking of San Francisco, John Riley's team, they signed Soler, they signed the Japanese star Lee, and now they've signed Chapman to a 3-year deal, but he can opt out after 1 and 2, and they're going to have to give up draft picks. That's a huge gamble. And 2 of the pitchers they got, Rob Ray and Jordan Hicks, have a bad history of injuries and might not be ready to start the season. So I don't understand what Zaidi has done as general manager in terms of where he's spending his resources. To me, it's kind of weird what the Giants have done.
What's really funny to me? These opt-outs. I'm not a big opt-out guy. I mean, Bryce Harper, give him credit. When he went to Philadelphia, he goes, I want to be in Philadelphia, and he had no opt-outs.
Yep.
Now, he wants to play till he's 40 or 41, and he'd like to probably go back to the table and renegotiate. But, I look at a guy like Matt Chapman. Matt Chapman last year in April and May was as good an offensive performer in baseball as there was. And then all of a sudden the roof caved in on him. Last 4 months, he was awfully.
Yeah.
I mean, his OPS and average,
216,
everything
209.
it was brutal. A lot of swing and miss. But what cracks me up about these opt-outs, it's in the player's favor. If he has a great year, he can opt out. If he has a bad year, he's not going to opt out because nobody's going to give him any kind of contract. So that team ends up getting stuck. I mean, these opt-outs are the worst thing ever for a ball club.
So you're a baseball fan. Fans Forum chat room is open. Feel free to jump on board. You want to respond to what we've just said about the Padres, what we said about the Dodgers, and obviously Scott Boras and company. So we're going from baseball. Let's go to basketball. Hot topics. We'll start in the NBA, then we'll zero in on what's gone on in the Pac-12. The Clippers need this guy. This guy reinvented himself. He's kind of a chemistry guy, and now the Clippers lose Russell Westbrook, fractured hand, out indefinitely. He was a glue that kind of held this thing together. Now, there's no doubt they still got the big three, Harden, Kawhi, Paul George. You just keep your fingers crossed that nobody's breaking down final month of the season, but they're going to need bench help. They do have Norm Powell, but this, to me, is a really big blow. Second topic. This guy is self-destructing, setting himself on fire right in front of our eyes. We're talking about Mick Cronin in UCLA, 14-15 on the season. For the second time in a month, he has a terrible meltdown about his players. He says that defense that allowed 90 points a game, that's not Mick Cronin's defense, that's on those kids. And then he said, my guys need to turn the thermostat up on defense, and they've refused to do it. He says some of you people are playing for next year. I want to see who wants to be here next year. I guarantee you I can't build a roster around guys that won't fight. I want guys to learn to do the hard things. This was this weekend. A couple of weeks ago, he's the one that stood up and just screeched at his players, don't call your mama, and don't think about going in the transfer portal because nobody wants you. It's amazing what Mick Cronin has turned into. And by the way, you recruited him. You're responsible for him. It's your program. Coach him up. Don't beat him down. I've never seen in modern-day athletics a coach do that. And the third name is Bronny James, USC. I'm sorry. This is just starting to look like the whole Lonzo Ball era with his dad. Top. Bronny James, he's talking about going to the NBA draft, talking about selecting a team. Why? He just got benched. He's averaging 5 points a game, lost his starting job with the Trojans. He's telling people, I have to see who I'm going to fit in with before I make a decision on going to the draft. And he just got benched. It's like listening to Lonzo Ball and Lonzo Ball's father and how'd all that work out. So, Coach, topics on the table. Pick one.
Well, I'll start with Russell Westbrook, Lee. Going back to watching him play at UCLA and watching his Hall of Fame career in the NBA, he was with the Lakers there for a while. And he took a lot of criticism. Yep. And, I watched those Laker games religiously. I've been a huge Laker fan since I was a little boy. And, the only thing that I disliked about him when he was with the Lakers, I never want to see him take a three-point shot ever again. But mid-range jump shot, going to the hoop, fantastic player. You brought up the point that, he changed his role, and he's come off the bench and done one hell of a job. And he's a good guy. He's done a lot of great charity work in Los Angeles, and hopefully he can get back there because the Clippers are playing great. And I got to mention the kid from San Diego, from Lincoln, Norman Powell, another guy comes off the bench right now. He got serious firepower, and he's a very underrated player. And you get Kawhi and Paul George. I know has missed a few games, and you got Harden. They've got the wherewithal to win this thing. If everybody's healthy. So it'll be interesting. As far as Mick Cronin, I talked to some people at UCLA earlier in the year, not recently, but it was after his first meltdown. And he's just having a really hard time with these guys. And he thought they would be a lot further ahead than they are. You got a lot of European players that he's brought in. I think, it's been a major adjustment for them. It's obviously been more than an adjustment for the head coach. And, I mean, there's been times where UCLA early in the year played really well. Then they were just awful. You didn't even want to watch them play. Then they got into a pretty good spell where they won, 5, 6, 7 games out of about 8, and now they're back to going the wrong direction again. So he hasn't handled it very well. It'll be very interesting to see who stays, who goes. We'll have to wait and see on that. And the last topic, Bronny James, I think the best thing for Bronny, I think considering his dad talks about his son a lot, I think the kid's actually done a pretty good job. He's a very good passer. I mean, there's some real strong points about him as a basketball player. He plays good defense. He passes the ball well. Got to definitely work on his shot. But I think let's be honest. Let's be happy the kid's even able to play after that hard episode a year ago. He got a lot of work to do, and I think going to the NBA or trying to go to the NBA after 1 year would be a major mistake. Stay in there for at least 3 years, get bigger, get stronger, get better, and then let's talk about the NBA.
Have you ever seen a coach rip apart his team the way Cronin has ripped apart his team twice this year?
Well, Bobby Knight did every once in a while years ago.
Just good comparison. Interesting. Hey, we get to halftime. Our podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center Stores. There are 9 locations in San Diego. Whether it's kitchen counters, whether it's closet doors, whether it's flooring, whether it's new vanities, you got projects at home, think about DIXIELINE Lumber, and that includes things like doors and windows and what you're doing on your patio around the swimming pool. DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. And our podcast also brought to you by North County Eye Center of Poway and Escondido. Comprehensive eye care, state-of-the-art technology from cataracts to glaucoma to cornea implants, extensive screening programs, vision tests, and more. The place to go, North County Eye Center, Poway and Escondido. And we're here at halftime, our Monday bonus podcast. Hacksaw, the coach, John Kentera. John Riley out in left field. His microphone's not working, but he's going to rejoin us right now. John, when we get to the finish line of today's Monday bonus podcast, tell them about Fans Forum, all the new people that are joining us on live stream.
Yeah, Lee, Fans Forum is just loading up. John, you got to check this out. There's so many people that are involved. We're already highlighting names. The Winnipeg folks have rolled in, so they got more comments. If you got a question or a comment in the world of sports for Lee or for the coach, just drop it in the live chat on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, and we'll get you involved in Fans Forum.
And a reminder, if you like sports, check my website. Every morning it is all written. LeeHacksawHamilton.com, and on the homepage is a big orange box. Fill it out. Register to join Hacksaw's Insiders Group as we roll out things in 2024. You'll get the alerts every time we do something. Share, tell your friends what we're doing, and subscribe every time we put something new on the YouTube channel, which is a lot of different days of the week. Ding, ding. You'll get notification. So do all that. Give us thumbs up. You like our product, give us a 5-star rating too. Okay, so we've talked a lot of different things. Let's talk about what was really cool on Sunday, and then we'll talk about the reaction nationwide Monday. We're talking basketball, college basketball. Who was better? Caitlin Clark, Pistol Pete Maravich. She broke the Division I scoring record of all time. Her career numbers are staggering. For the Lady Hawkeye, she's hit 300 threes in his career. She's played 130 games. She's averaging 28 per game over the course of her career. She's got 3,685 points, and she's got 9 games left. There is a small college player in Florida who had over 4,000 points in her small college career. Caitlin Clark, playing the best against the best, could break that by the time we get through the NCAA tournament. And everybody's got an opinion. Oh, who was better, Clark or Pistol Pete? Well, Pete, 3,677 points in Division I basketball. He averaged 40 points per game. But his era, there was no three-point shot. His era, there was no shot clock. And he only played 3 years, where she's now completing her 4th, because the redshirt rule in the NCAA was still in effect. He couldn't play as a freshman. I'm sorry. I'm so tired of hearing the voices on TV argue who is better, who is better. Just appreciate the accomplishment. It's a different game. She's brilliant. He was unto himself. And the coach says...
Well, first of all, Caitlin Clark is an incredible player, Lee. And you know, the story about her and MARAVICH, I mean, it sounded good, I guess, on SportsCenter last night. But at the end of the day, Pistol Pete MARAVICH died many, many years ago. And coaches are still telling their kids that, you know, do the MARAVICH drills, do this, do that. Because not only did he average, and you're kind of shortchanging him, Lee, he averaged 44.2. Okay, 44.2 for 3 years. Who knows what he averaged on that freshman team? I heard all kinds of stories about that. But, you know, and Dale Brown, the old LSU coach, he wasn't, you know, Pistol Pete's coach there because his dad, Press MARAVICH, was his coach. But Dale Brown went back and had all the tapes of all the games and went back and evaluated it and said if the three-point shot would have been in effect at that point in time, MARAVICH would have averaged 13 threes per game. He would average 57 points a game. And not only, you know, was it the scoring, Lee, it was, how about those acrobatic passes and his dribbling exhibition? I mean, he was a guy that everybody wanted to be like back when I was playing, when I was in the 70s, you know, when I was playing high school and college basketball. I wore 44 because he wore 44 when he was playing in the NBA. I wore the wool socks like he did when I was in high school. I had a pair of socks that said Pistol on them. I mean, everybody wanted to be Pistol Pete MARAVICH, and I'm sure a lot of the girls want to be Caitlin Clark, and she's had a great college career. She'll probably be the number one pick in the WNBA draft, and we wish her the best. But Pistol Pete, I mean, he's like a, you know, he's like an icon when it comes to, you know, doing everything as a basketball player, and he did it at the highest level in the NBA. He had some great years in the NBA before his knees went bad.
So you dressed like Pete, but you didn't play like Pete.
No, but I could do some of the goofy tricks that he pulled. And by the way, I've got all the VHS tapes of Pistol Pete and his drills at home.
That's cool. And Caitlin Clark's history will be not just statistics, but her impact on college basketball across the country and what March Madness has now come for all the women in the country. It's just a phenomenal impact. They've always been really good players out there. Now we're getting to see all these players because the colleges are recruiting them.
She can flat out shoot, though. I mean, I don't care, man, woman, animal. She can flat out shoot. I mean, she's 6 foot tall. She got a great stroke. I mean, watching her shoot, it's really pretty special.
Yeah, her fadeaway jump shots, her fadeaway threes, hitting shots from the logo at midcourt.
I didn't realize, you know, how tall she was really until a couple of weeks ago when I really started following. You know, I watched that LSU game last year when they got beat by LSU in the title game and all that. But, you know, I didn't realize that she was 6 foot tall. But, man, she moves. She handles the ball really well, but she can flat out shoot.
Oh, LSU, Iowa, Angel Reese rematch.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be fun. Okay, so we go from basketball. Let's peek inside the NFL notebook. We got all kinds of storylines around the National Football League. He has a job. Brandon Staley, fired Chargers head coach after 3 really substandard seasons, disappointing seasons, lousy playoff seasons, just hired as assistant head coach and will be a lead defensive guy, not the coordinator, but he'll be on Kyle Shanahan's staff. So we'll see if he is flexible. We will see if he changes everything that he refused to change with the Chargers. Because as he left, there was an undercurrent of comment that he was totally inflexible in terms of X's, O's, the use of players, etc. So we'll see if he's a different guy. He interviewed a lot of places, and he got hired. He's the last big name that finally got hired. He goes to San Francisco. The clock is ticking. We're waiting on Russell Wilson. It appears that he is going to be bought out. He is going to kill the Broncos. They're going to take a $45 million cap hit. His contract this year is $39.7 million. It's obvious Sean Payton, with a statement Payton made last week that we have to get the next decision on the next quarterback right. That means Russell Wilson's going to exit. He confirmed this weekend he refused to change any of the language. They approached him again in the contract about injury guarantees. He said, no, the contract is the contract. It looks as if Kirk Cousins is gone from Minnesota. This guy could make $42 million this year. He's made mega money. And the Vikings have enormous problems. They got to re-sign Justin Jefferson. They got to re-sign Danielle Hunter, their top pass rusher. Cousins may be exiting, maybe going to Atlanta, maybe going to the Washington Commanders. We're also waiting on Justin Fields. Bears are shopping him hard. We hear there's now 4 teams that might trade for Justin Fields. The latest one to jump in would be the Raiders, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are both rumored this weekend to having had talks at the Combine with Atlanta. This historically might be the worst contract the Chargers ever gave out. This J.C. Jackson situation, the Patriots just released him. You know, the Chargers gave him $82 million package on a 5-year deal. He got $31 million of it for 9 games. And he had a bad injury, and then he got removed from the roster, and then he got traded to the Patriots. Patriots didn't take on any guaranteed money. They played him. They benched him at the end of the season. Belichick had enough. This guy there's some mental health issues going on with him. J.C. Jackson is gone. The Chargers, get this, in addition to having paid him $31 million for 9 freaking games, Chargers take a $20 million cap hit because New England has released him. And the Chargers have big salary cap problems, and now you take that 20 on top of the 25 that they're over the cap. And so they've got big issues, and there are going to be some bodies on the street corner probably within a week that the Chargers just have to let go because they can't keep them all. So, Coach Kentera, you got opinions? Yeah, no, you don't have any opinions. You got opinions. Talk about what's in the NFL notebook.
Well, Brandon Staley, I'm going to have to talk with John Lynch when I get an opportunity and find out what he saw in Brandon Staley, because I'll be honest with you, I saw nothing from him when he was with the Chargers, the head coach.
Square peg, round hole.
Well, not the other thing, Lee, and, you know, I think he might fall into this. I don't know. Maybe he'll get another opportunity like Josh McDaniels did, and that didn't go real well over there with the Raiders. But, you know, Brandon Staley might be a good defensive coordinator, okay? He certainly wasn't a very good head coach. I think that was proven out, and I'm really kind of surprised the 49ers hired him. Now, as far as Russell Wilson, I thought Russell Wilson actually played pretty well last year. Was he the same Russell Wilson he was in Seattle? No, but I thought as the season went on, he got a little more accustomed with what Peyton was trying to do. I think Peyton was more of a problem last year, to be honest with you, than Russell Wilson.
He had a lot to fix.
Yeah, he had a lot to fix, but I also think he came in maybe not with the greatest of attitudes. There's been times when I thought he was maybe a little bit overrated as a head coach, but, you know, Russell Wilson, he's going to play a few more years, I would think, whether it's in Denver or somewhere else. Somebody will bring him on.
Well, when he gets released, Denver has to pay the whole contract.
Right.
NFL team will sign him to a veteran's minimum. So somebody's going to get a bargain on a 1 or 2 year rental. And he had 24 touchdowns, I think 7 picks last year in a bad situation with all the injuries around him. So I still think he's got gas left in the tank.
As far as Kirk Cousins, you know, got hurt there at the end of the year for the Vikings. I think Kevin O'Connell was very happy with him while he was there. You know, you mentioned Atlanta. I think that's a possibility. I've even heard if Justin Fields got traded, maybe the Bears would go after Kirk Cousins. I don't know. You know, as far as Justin Fields, Lee, I was not a fan of his coming out of Ohio State. But I've watched him play, and I thought at times last year he played pretty well.
Last year he played pretty well.
I think the biggest problem with the Bears, every year he's got a new offensive coordinator. I think he's been there 3 years. He's had 3 different offensive coordinators. Plus, they have nobody. They got one receiver around him.
DJ Moore.
Yeah, get him a little help, and that guy might be pretty good. I mean, you could bring Caleb Williams in there, and he's going to be a talented guy. I know there's some people who don't like Caleb Williams. I do. But again, you're still going through the learning curve, and I think Justin Fields is more than suitable if you get him a little bit of help. And as far as J.C. Jackson, wow, that's a tough one there. I mean, Chargers, that's not the first bad contract they've signed. We know that. But at the end of the day, I mean, a guy that just really pretty much self-destructed, and you brought up the mental health issues, and I buy into that.
So lots to talk about. You're an NFL fan. I think there's a few of them out there. Join us on Fans Forum. Get into the chat box. Let's talk college football, and just a little bit off center here. The Mountain West Conference is going to meet in their spring meetings, and they are seriously considering changing their revenue-sharing plan. At the end of the day, if you go to a bowl game, if you go to the NCAA tournament, you get what's called an NCAA unit. It's like bonus money. But Boise State has a different contract in the Mountain West. They get additional money. That was given to them so they'd stay in the conference and wouldn't defect to the Big 12 a group of years ago. Well, now San Diego State, because of the enormous success in basketball, says, hey, if we got this rule for Boise, we need to consider this rule for everybody else in our conference. So if we get chosen for the tournament and we win the first game and go on to the second round and third round, fourth round, we get additional bonuses. Last year, the Aztecs generated $10 million in NCAA basketball units for going to the final game. They only got $1 million. They only got one share. And what's going to be kicked around and be proposed is, okay, the first lump sum unit for getting to the tournament, everybody, New Mexico gets in, Vegas gets in, Utah State, whatever, they all get a bonus for getting the tourney. All that goes into a pool, and it's divided. San Diego State is now proposing if we win our first game and we go to the second round, we get the full bonus. That's like $1.4 million for every game you win. So the Aztecs would have the potential of maybe getting $5 million bonus units if they got back to the final round again. So there's going to be a huge, huge discussion about that. The West Coast Conference has the same bonus plan. They devised a couple of years ago to keep Gonzaga. They devised the same thing. Everybody gets a unit. St. Mary's, San Francisco. If they get into the tournament, everybody in the conference gets a share of the unit. But they agreed to allow Gonzaga to go forward every round they went. And they went deep a bunch of times. They would keep the bonus units. So Mountain West and San Diego State say, hey, this is the way it's worked for Boise in football. We want the same thing for Aztecs in basketball, and it's worked successfully in the West Coast Conference. So the model might change.
My take on that, first of all, Boise had that deal many years ago when they wanted to keep them there. I mean, is that like a lifetime contract?
Yeah, that came up in discussion.
I mean, that needs to go away, okay? Because Boise ain't the same program now that it was when they made that deal. And, as far as, bowl games, it used to be the team that went to a certain bowl, they got a higher percentage, but then the rest of that money would be divided equally among the other schools in the conference. As far as basketball is concerned, I think they ought to go the same way. You shouldn't necessarily get the entire chunk, but you should get a higher percentage, and then the other part of the money ought to be dispersed equally throughout the course of the programs. Because really, I look at the West Coast Conference. I mean, the rich get richer. I mean, Gonzaga already has so many competitive edges. I mean, they've got their own private plane. They can bring recruits in. They can get home after a long road game a lot quicker. I mean, the rich get richer with deals like that. And who's to say? I mean, in the days now of gambling and in college athletic people gambling on games, who's to say that, officials in a tight game, Gonzaga against USF for a team to go to the next round of the conference tournament, hey, everybody wants Gonzaga because they can make more money for the conference. Who's to say down the stretch a couple of calls go here or there? You never know, Lee.
I mean, conspiracies, John.
You know what I'm talking about. I mean, hey, like it's not happened before.
Oh, I'll leave it at that. Okay, we go from that college story to the other college story. And we had this great debate, John Riley and I, last week about the playoffs. I think 12 teams is too many because we're going to wind up getting blowouts and there's going to be a lot of unhappy people. John Riley, out in left field, his mic doesn't work today. That's why he can't participate. But John Riley's the opinion. Let them all in. Anyhow. So we have a 12-team playoff that will start this coming December. We understand that. They are now finalizing plans for 2026, a 14-team playoff. And what they're proposing, this year's playoff will be 5+7, 5 guaranteed slots for the conference champions, and then 7 at-large teams. And it's going to be based on the CFB football rankings. That's how they're going to pick the at-large teams. Well, now they're talking in 2026, guaranteed slots. They are talking, when they go to 14 teams, they're talking 3 guaranteed slots for the SEC, 3 for the Big Ten, 2 for the Atlantic Coast, 2 for the Big 12, and 1 for the best team in the group of 5, whether that's Mountain West, Mid-American Conference, whomever. 3 at-large teams would then be chosen to fill out the 14-team field. But they've said there's no limit as to how many can come from one conference, and we'll decide with our rankings who the 3 at-large teams are. So, heck, we could wind up having 5 SEC teams, so we could have 5 from the Big Ten. And at the end of the day, I think the small guy kind of gets screwed, whether that's San Diego State or that's Boise State. And they're also trying to determine who's going to play where. Their theory is first round, there are buys. First round, home field is great because they'll sell the stadium out and that'll generate more money. I maintain, John Riley disagrees with me, again from left field, I maintain home games, first round, screw the bowls. The Holiday Bowl, Boise Bowl, Citrus Bowl, the bowls that have nice tradition, do a lot in their community, they're not going to be part of this mix. I maintain the first-round games should be placed at the second-tier bowl games to give them a big payday because they're not going to have marquee teams to go get. So that's my opinion in the Yankers chair. My co-host is out in left field. He's got his opinion, and Coach Kentera says?
I think 14 teams in 2026 is too many for me. If you want to go 12 and the first 4 teams get a bye, like they're talking, I'm fine with that. If they weren't going to do that, then just have 8 teams because I think 8's more than enough, to be honest with you, okay? As far as I think the first round needs to be at home because you can only ask fans to travel so many times. And, people, they're hoping their team can get to the finals and, wherever the finals is that year, they want to be able to go. You can't ask them to travel, 1 or 2 or 3 weeks in a row or 3 out of 4 weeks. That's unfair. If they could find a way to make the bowls more important to where players actually want to play. And I think by having the playoffs, Lee, I think you're going to see less guys opt out like we did this year. If you're not in one of the top 4 slots, guys were opting out right and left. Yeah. I give USC a lot of credit at the Holiday Bowl. You could tell. I remember sitting next to Rick Garrettson, who coaches high school football in Arizona. I said, man, Rick, SC really came to play. They were ready for that bowl game. They wanted to show that they were more than just Caleb Williams, and they played a great game. But
they didn't have their quarterback, their top 2 running backs,
no.
and top 2 wide receivers all sat out.
Yeah, Miller Moss came in, did a great job. But more than anything else, it would really value the bowl game. So many of these bowl games now have been devalued.
Oh, yeah.
If you could find a way to go the direction you're talking, it would be absolutely fantastic. But again, you can't ask your fans to travel 2 or 3 weekends. A lot of people don't have that kind of money.
Okay. Those are topics on the table. John Riley, grab that mic. You got something you want to add to this conversation here? Because you sat here and watched from left field.
Yeah, I know. I'm playing producer today. But I'm a big fan of 32. I want to wide open this thing up.
This guy is hooked emotionally to March Madness.
You can only have players play so many games in a season.
Yeah, well, maybe you have to adjust some things. But
they do have to go to class, even though nobody ever talks about that anymore. You got to actually go to school.
Well, I love the March Madness format. I love giving smaller schools opportunities. I love seeing big upsets. And why not? Right now we have a 2-tiered system, where you've got the group of 5 or the group of 5 and the power 5. And I'd like to see them more intermingled.
Well, the unfortunate thing with the NIL, the group of 5 become a nice farm system for the power 5.
Everybody cherry picks everybody.
Yep.
Now that might change a year from now. Once the new director of the NCAA gets his deal done with Congress, that may change.
I'm not going to hold my breath on that.
I know. And John Riley said, the government's going to get involved? How's the post office worked out?
Yeah, that's not going to work.
Okay, it's time for Fans Forum.
We've got one more topic on the table.
I forgot about this. Yes. This is the last topic, and this is hard. My heart ached all day. We lost Chris Mortensen. And for those of us like Coach and I have done talk radio our whole lives, we develop relationships with the guys at the network, and they would become our point men and our contacts and, to a degree, our insiders because they had different information from different people than we had. And it was always so cool. Chris Mortensen was one of the first NFL insiders with John Clayton, and we've lost both of them within a calendar year. Hell of a guy, great credibility, Christian, fought an unbelievable fight against throat cancer and finally succumbed early yesterday morning. So it took my heart away. He was so credible as a person and such a special guy. professionally as well as personally.
Well, you bring up two great guys. I mean, John Clayton, I mean, I can see him sitting at Qualcomm Stadium right now behind his computer typing away. He'd come up and talk with you. You know, Lee, you and I had John Clayton and Chris Mortensen on a lot over the years. And the thing that I always remember, I remember the guys that always took time. And I said that yesterday when I sent a tweet out when I saw that Chris had passed away. He was one of those guys, you know, I was starting out. You were an established guy, but I'd call him or my producer would call. It didn't matter what he was doing. He would always find the time to come on. And John Clayton was just like that. And for a lot of people that didn't know, Chris Mortensen lived in Atlanta for many, many years.
He's a West Coast guy.
But he was a West Coast guy. He was born in Torrance, California. And, he passed away at 72. And he fought a hell of a fight. Great man. And, you like me, man. And we lost a guy that was really good to you and I.
Yeah. And there's a third guy in the equation because I was with him every step of the way, and he's been fighting cancer. And it's been a monster struggle for Dick Vitale. And he was to college basketball. He was the first one through the wall in terms of college football or college basketball, and he's fought a hell of a fight, and he's still there fighting away.
Yeah, I got to tell you, and I had Dick Vitale on a few times over the years. But one time when I was doing a night show after your show on 690, Dick Vitale called our hotline. And so I'd gone to a break, and he got me on the phone. He goes, "Hey, the Rolling Stones are coming to San Diego. Can you get me tickets?" And I go, "Dick, I don't think I can get tickets for that." He goes, "Well, I just thought I'd try."
Yeah, what a great gentleman. And he's done some unbelievable charity things.
Yeah,
he's carried on for the Coach V, Jimmy Valvano Fund after Jimmy passed from cancer. So we've lost a couple of really good guys in the media. Now it's time for John Riley's favorite segment because of these are all his friends who've joined us from left field with their questions and their comments. Go ahead, John. Pick a few. Let's see what they've got to say, and we'll see what a roundtable has to say.
Okay. Well, first of all, there's a lot of people that are just loving having Coach here. They're just loving to see the two of you together. So let's take a look at some of these comments here. This is from Art Vandalay. It says, "So great to see two legends, Hacksaw and Coach Kentera." Then Callan, Max Sports says, "Some San Diego and SoCal sports talk radio legends on the air today. Great to see you, Coach."
Yeah, maybe we should start our own show every day.
Hey, maybe.
Thank you.
Let's go here to Michael. He says, "Any chance the Padres could re-sign Blake Snell? Very interesting that he is not signed so late in spring training."
Well, they only have $18 million left. Their payroll right now is $149. It's $101 million below what it was a year ago this time. They can't go over the first threshold. They've already, this has been a brutal year. They lost the $60 million TV contract, Coach. They owed MLB $40 million in penalties. They have to stay below, and it's obvious with the pass in Peter Seidler that they've decided to take the budget even farther down. So they won't get involved with Blake Snell. They had an opportunity. They offered him $20 million when they qualified an offer to him, and they've responded in a negative fashion immediately. So that's not going to happen.
It doesn't look like it's going to happen. This Blake Snell thing is every day that goes by, I'm finding it more and more fascinating because, even though he's been working out up there in the Pacific Northwest, I know he's been coaching a bunch of kids. His dad, I think, still coaches like youth league baseball up there. You're not thrown to a major league catcher. You're not in major league camp. And, a lot of times, Lee, when even the old guys are working out, then they come into camp late, they're always playing catch up, and then they try to do too much, and they have a setback, a sore elbow or a sore shoulder or something starts nagging. And right now, I think Blake Snell, unfortunately, is kind of setting himself up for a bad season.
Yeah, and he's had erratic seasons sandwiched around the two unbelievable Cy Young Award seasons. You and I are both baseball junkies. I tell John Riley this all the time. We have not seen a pitcher this dominant, 1.20 ERA from May 1st on, this dominant since Bob Gibson in 1968. His ERA was 1.12, I believe.
Yeah, Bob Gibson. I got his autograph once upon a time. Boy, I was kind of scared to ask him for an autograph, but he ended up being a really, really nice man and started asking me if I played baseball and all that. I met him out at La Costa during the old Astrojet where they used to have major league players, and NFL players. I got Mickey Mantle's autograph, Willie Mays' autograph, all on the same day. But Bob Gibson was really cool. But, as far as Blake Snell, I know they used the walks against him last year. He walked 99, led all of baseball. But then you take a look at his ERA. I mean, that shows you just how dominant he was. He walked 99 guys last year, and only 12 guys scored. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Yeah. Next question.
Okay. Let's actually, I want to get this one in here. It's about Blake Snell, but this is from Cody, and I want to thank him for the $5 super chat donation. He says, hope all is well. What are you hearing with Snell? Are the Yankees truly in the race for him or being used to higher the price?
Well, as we alluded to in the early segments, the problem with the Yankees is they did offer him a 6-year, $150 deal. It was rejected. Scott Boras came back and said we wanted opt-outs. And the Yankees said, if we sign him, we have to pay a $33 million tax penalty on that contract every year. We have to forfeit 2 draft picks. We have to forfeit international money. We don't want to have to give that up with the risk that he could opt out. No opt-outs at Yankee Stadium. So that's why he's not signed there. The Phillies reportedly made contact over the weekend, Coach. All of a sudden, Philadelphia gave the mega contract early this morning to Zach Wheeler. They look out of it. The Giants have spent a lot of money, but they got the same opt-out problem that you're going to get a guy for 1 year at a lower price, and then you're forfeiting draft picks to have him vacate. The way Scott Boras is doing business, I don't think it represents the best situation for Blake Snell because most everybody's money is spent.
When this free agency got underway, Lee and John, I thought that Blake Snell, when I heard about the Yankees and you heard about the Phillies and you heard about the Dodgers initially before they went after Yamamoto, I thought he was going to go to the Giants.
So did I.
And I'm, even though they've signed Soler and they've signed Chapman and they brought the center fielder in from Korea, they've got to do something up there, even more to get that fan base back. They had a lot of empty seats last year, and they've had the last couple of years. It wouldn't surprise me if they worked out a deal, but I still think the Yankees might come back with a shorter deal and try to get him in under there. Yankees, their farm system's pretty frugal right now, and they could afford to give up a draft pick here or there, I think. But as far as luxury tax, I don't think anybody wants to pay that. But, it's going to be interesting to see where he goes, how long he's going there for, and how well he produces in his first year with this late start.
Yeah, and this is a different environment to pitch at Yankee Stadium than pitch in small market San Diego, where everything is beautiful.
And the thing is, with him, he's a guy about being comfortable. And going to Yankee Stadium, even though he's pitched there a lot when he was with Tampa, I don't know if day in and day out if he wants to live in New York and live that kind of life. He's more of a low-key guy.
Fascinating. Juan Soto goes there. He thinks this is going to be easy.
Yeah, he's there for 1 year.
If he's there and hits 226, it's not going to be like being in San Diego hitting 226
for
the first half of the season.
High fly balls to right field to go out in that ballpark.
Good deal. We move on. Next question.
Okay. Let's. Art Vandalay jumped in here again. Another super chat donation. Thank you, Art. He goes, I love Coach. Don't you agree that we should sign Bauer? All those women are liars. Also, what's your opinion on Kim refusing to learn English?
Well, boy, that's a hot button. This might explode a bunch. We might melt the computers down now in addition to John's microphone. Bauer has paid a terrible price for stupidity. Bauer can pitch. You'd have to explain yourself to your fans and society, but if it's all about winning and you can formulate a contract that keeps him on the straight and narrow, because he's got to reestablish his credibility as a pitcher, but also as a person, I would take a run at him. John and I have argued back and forth. I think the Angels, who really need a front-end guy, should take a run on a one-year contract with Bauer, because he's 83-56 as a starter. Is he a flake? Yeah. Has he got himself involved in a bunch of junk? Yeah, I would do that. And in terms of the I had an issue in the Padre clubhouse, and there was one stretch 3 years ago. They had 18 of the 25 guys didn't speak English because of the tremendous Caribbean connection. And I don't understand why these guys don't want to learn English, A, to make it easier, but also to make themselves a marketing gem, because now you're a two-language guy. So
why do they need to be a marketing gem when they're already making big money?
Because it's all about the bank. Okay, your thoughts on Bauer?
Well, if I was the general manager of the Padres, I would do my due diligence on that. I would look in. I mean, you're looking for ball players in any way you can get them, and I mean, there's a lot of baggage there. That girl's from San Diego that he was involved with. He's a knucklehead. There's no question about it. He's a big knucklehead, dating back to his days at UCLA, for that matter. I don't think he had any type of these problems back there, but you know. He's not behind bars. I do think, and I'm a big believer that people do deserve second chances. I'm not sure the Padres want to deal with all the PR. They've got enough of problems trying to put their 26-man roster together, and I don't know if they want to. And, you know, I think the other thing, if I was a general manager, I got to go to my leaders of my ball club. I got to go to Bogarts. I got to go to Machado, and I got to get a little bit of a feel on how they would feel, because they're the ones that are going to have to be on the fire line. You know, I can do the press conference, but day in and day out, I'm not going to necessarily step to the mic. But, you know, people are going to be in that Padre clubhouse, and every player on that team is going to have to answer, you know, what do you think about Trevor Bauer? So it'll be interesting. I do think he's going to get an opportunity. It may be a little bit of a late start, but I don't disagree with you. Going to Anaheim may not be the worst case scenario because of the media market there. But I think that story here to San Diego, a little too close to home, I think, for the Padres to go that direction. And I don't think they want to deal with the PR, considering they're just trying to get their ball club together.
John, carry on. Next question here.
Okay. Let's go here to Neil, and this is a great comment. He says, "It feels great hearing Saw and Coach on the same blowtorch again. Thank you, YouTube and Facebook. Just need to get Kaplan and Darren Smith."
Tell you what, John and I have talked radio for a long time, because if you stay in one place long enough, they are going to get you, they be in management. And we've talked about all the really good people that are, quote, free agents. Some are doing these. Some are out of the business completely. It's too bad. And I'll just make this comment. Historically, I have so many broadcast people from outside San Diego who've always come to me and said, 690, what you guys built, how did you do it? And it was just a combination of a wide variety of confluences that fell into place. Ownership that loved sports talk radio. It was the beginning of sports talk radio. We were the first one on the street corner to do that type of sports talk radio. And they fell into hiring really quality guys that evolved. I mean, you think back. I was the first component. And then you think about how they hired other people. You know, you came on a bit later with your repertoire of high school football. Steve Hartman was not the guy they were supposed to hire. They were supposed to hire Bud Ferrillo. They hired Hartman from L.A., and then they hired Chet Forty from New York. And after Chet passed, I introduced them to Philly Billy Werndell, and we were off to the races. And there was, you know, and then Jim Rome came as a nighttime sports reporter, then a sports talk show host, then a weekend guy, and he became a mega superstar on the network. And we had Mason and Ireland and some other really good guys. I don't think it was by any grand design. I think they knew, because I was the first guy coming in, they knew what they wanted to do, and then they came upon all these different people. And you look back at the run we had from, when did it launch? 1990?
1990. From
1990 till, unfortunately,
my last day at 690 was December 27th, 2002. And that's when our contracts weren't renewed. And, you know, but Lee, 690 was special, and it'll never be recreated. I mean, you mentioned the guys, and, you know, we're friends with all those guys to this day. And I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with the listeners. Not everybody always got along there.
Hell no.
I mean, everybody was fighting. I mean, there was no Twitter. There was no, I mean, the internet kind of was starting to come in the, you know, mid to late 90s. But, I mean, we had to grind. We had to spend a lot of time on the phone. I mean, you were always on the phone. I was always on the phone. Everybody was on the phone that wanted to get quality, top-notch stories. And, you know, there was a competitiveness between all of us, quite frankly. I mean, we wanted to get the story right. and everybody was competing, and everybody wanted to know what you were doing with the high-speed sports wire and all that stuff. And I'd come in and after you at night, and stories would be coming down at 8:00 at night, and I'd be on top of that. But that was a unique group of guys. And then when 690 went away, John Lynch's non-compete was over, and we most of us went back to work in March of 2003 until I stayed there till 2015. And I went and did some other things, and then had my last radio gig. So it's been interesting. Met a lot of great people. Kaplan, Scotty and Darren. I had a good conversation because I filled in on Darren's show a couple of weeks ago. Those guys are doing well.
Yeah. It's fascinating to think back. And all the people, the radio industry people from the outside, I interact with these people and say, how did you get there? How did you do this? What made it work? Well, it was a combination of
a lot of hard work, that's for sure.
Yeah, and we never, I don't think any of us at 690 thought we would leave a legacy behind that we did, and we really did. And it was right group of guys, some by design, some they fell into and discovered. Right signal, 77,000 watts. I mean, I got people to this day that listen to us in Oregon and the state of Washington,
Absolutely.
Up in Vancouver, and having the right play-by-play. And our team, quote, the Chargers, got really good. And our team, the Aztecs, had the historical run with Marshall Faulk, and we were all wrapped around that. So it's interesting to hear from people out of town in radio executives, program directors that I interact with that say, how did you guys do this? Because everybody's tried to do it, and nobody's ever been able to recreate what we did. 9-hour game days, NFL draft shows, and,
I love those draft shows.
Broadcasts from spring training in the Cactus League, or when I got to go to Vero Beach. I mean, it was just at Dodgertown. It was just...
Yeah, I thought the 690 guys, when they sent you to Vero Beach, they told me they sent you on a one-way ticket. We didn't expect you to come back.
I came back on the plane. I saw the ratings without me. Felt I'd need to bail them out a second time. But it was really, really special. So that's the great heritage, even though we're doing something really different now with podcast and we have Zoom and we have all.
Yeah, but you talk sports. A lot of these shows now don't talk sports.
They talk to each other about non-important stuff.
Yeah.
Amazing. Couple more here before we put the lid on this, John Riley.
All right. Let's talk a little Dodgers here. We'll go to Dave. And he says, in the postseason, Dave Roberts takes his orders from the computer brains up in the GM's office. The Dodgers are like a video game team. Dave Roberts is a hell of a manager.
He manages egos really well.
Yeah, he does.
And now, there have been issues. I was just aghast at what's happened in postseason play, the use of the pitching staff, who got yanked early, who got shoved into the bullpen in a different role, etc. That's bothersome. I don't know if that's ever going to change because that seems to be the way organizations are running organizations now, the analytic guys.
Yeah, well, you got a lot of people that have never played the game. They're playing video games up there, and it is what it is. And I think all of us old school baseball people, we got to face it from time to time. And some of those numbers really do tell you a good story, but at the end of the day, they don't tell you what's in your chest or in between your ears. So you got to go with your gut feeling. I mean, that's why Bruce Bochy is so successful. Bochy, there's nobody that handles a bullpen better than Bochy. He does a great job handling a pitching staff, and at the end of the day, I guarantee in the World Series, he may be looking at numbers for matchups or his relief pitchers against certain hitters, but at the end of the day, he wants to put a guy out there on the mound that can get people out, and he's going to go with his old gut feeling.
From the gut.
Absolutely, 100%.
Next question, John Riley. Let's move on here.
Okay. Well, here's a fun one here, and this is from Normal Heights, and Coach, I'll let you read this one. You can see that?
Yeah. Normally, I'd be happy with the Dodgers.
No. Right here. It says, you got to have some veterans coming off the bench.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's you know what? People joke about that, but I've been around baseball my entire life, even before I got into broadcasting. I mean, that's what I did for a living for a number of years. Coached high school, college, worked as a professional scout for a couple of different organizations, evaluating players. And I watched a lot of players over the years come up from the minor leagues, and they don't get an opportunity to get those 4 at-bats every night. They're getting that 1 at-bat in a critical situation against a closer, and you're setting those guys up to fail. If you're going to bring a young kid up, you got to throw him in there, let him get 12, 15, 20 at-bats. If he's 0 for 20, he's 0 for 20, but you got to let that guy go back to the clubhouse and know the confidence his name's going to be in that lineup again the next night. And that's why I think if you've had guys on the bench that have been there, done that, they can make the adjustments. They've shown they can make the adjustments over a number of years at that level, and that's why it's crucial to have good, solid guys that have been there, done that, coming off the bench, not some rookie up from El Paso.
And the key word in the conversation is chemistry.
Oh, chemistry is a big part of it, and everybody now, because Bob Melvin's no longer here, everybody wants to point the finger. Melvin didn't do this. Melvin didn't do. Bob Melvin's a good manager. Mike Schilt's an outstanding manager, and they may be saying the same thing about Mike Schilt 2 years from now if they don't win or get to where they want to go. But Bob Melvin, there's nothing wrong with Bob Melvin. He did a good job, and I think the players they like playing for him. I don't think he grinded on them. Some managers will grind on you. I don't think Bob Melvin was a grinder. I think he got frustrated at times with
upstairs.
With upstairs. Absolutely. And you know what? General managers and managers, they have a tendency to butt heads because they're competitive, and everybody in baseball or in sports, they always think they're right. And, that's why when Kevin Towers and Bruce Bochy were here, not that they wouldn't get in arguments and that, but those guys were like the best of friends, and they always worked it out, and they always had the ball club as the number one priority, not their egos.
Okay, a couple more here. Fans Forum and social media. John Riley?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say this is awesome, to have the two of you together, because there's so many people in Fans Forum that are all freaking out. And I'm only cherry-picked a few people. I mean, there's hundreds of people in this chat line right now. And they're all loving seeing the two of you guys together. So this is cool.
I hadn't seen Saw in a while.
Yeah, it's good.
Good to see him.
All right, let's go here to let's talk to some of our fans up in Canada. Have some comments here, and it says from Matt, "What do you think about the trades the Raptors have made? Will Canada's team become a contender anytime soon?"
Well, they've shifted a lot of players. They've run a lot of players out of Toronto. I was kind of absolutely stunned the Raptors got rid of Fred VanVleet. He wound up in Houston and has done some really good things. Of course, prior to that, Kawhi Leonard exited too. It's intriguing. I mean, they keep trying to make deals that keep churning it. They're good, but they're not Boston.
No.
They're good, might not be the L.A. Clippers. I mean, we saw what Boston did to the Golden State Warriors over the weekend, beat them by 52, I think
they were
it was.
up at by 46 at halftime.
Yeah,
I watched part of that game.
Yeah, John was in a foul mood. I couldn't even get him to text me back.
That was unbelievable.
In the course of that. So, the NBA is all about the big three on all these star clubs. I think the NBA's got a problem, John. First of all, style of play. Defense has become optional in the NBA. That's a negative. I think the other thing is now the players and the agents run the league. Adam Silver doesn't run the league. The general manager of your team doesn't run the league. Everybody's got to have a big three. So, therefore, you got 5 clubs that have big 3 stars, and you got 25 other teams that have no prayer, no chance.
Rich Paul and Clutch Sports, they seem to be making the rosters for everybody these days.
So the NBA landscape has changed, and I don't, once the toothpaste is out of the tube, I don't think you get it back in, and I don't think the NBA reels the sport back into control.
I mean, there's some incredible players. I mean, Steph Curry's the greatest shooter I've ever seen. I mean, and how quickly he shoots. I mean, he barely gets the ball in his hand, and it's off. I mean, LeBron James is incredible. I mean, at 39 years of age doing what he's doing. I'm a big, strong guy. I mean, there's some incredible players right now, but man, they don't play hard night in, night out. They don't play tough, hard-nosed defense. And anytime you hit a guy above the shoulder, you got to go over and have a replay. I wonder like guys like Rick Mahorn and Bill Laimbeer, when they see it, they used to crush guys going to the basket. They'd be over there looking at that replay for 48 minutes during a basketball game. It's just a different game, but not real physical. And, I was watching the other night because everybody's been talking about how many points are being scored. Well, you know what? Guys are going to be able to get jump shots if you lay off them by 6 feet. You got to get right up in their chest and make them go around you, or at least work for that jump shot.
And the problem is there's so many great athletes. You're so quick. They will go around you.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not they get killed in the paint, that's another discussion. John, what else you got there?
What else? Okay, let's got a few more here to get to. And again, there's just so many people here that are just so stoked to see, Coach and Hacksaw. Here's Gary. He says, Coach, keep Coach a 3-guy Monday Night
football style. And I got a few more here that I want to get on. He says, great to see Coach and Hacksaw back together again. There was another one here that a guy had a comment about. Where was it? He said he remembered seeing you playing basketball at Peterson Gym at UCSD. I guess it's some promotion back in the day.
I played in a couple of charity games. There were a couple at UCSD, and there was another one at San Diego State. I played for cancer. A guy, Cordy Miller, who played for me at Torrey Pines, he went on and played at San Diego State for 4 years. He had a game for 3 years to raise money for cancer. One of those games, Mark Harmon from NCIS, the former UCLA quarterback, he played in that game. Chris Dudley played in that game. The late Sean Rooks, who played in the NBA in Arizona, was in that game. We had a bunch of different people. It's kind of a funny story. Sean Ricks, one year we were playing what is Lion Tree Arena now, but it was Remax Center when they first opened it. And we were playing, and, I hadn't played in a number of years, but, went out there and supported Cordy. And Chris Dudley, who played a long time in the NBA, went to Torrey Pines. I'm playing with Sean Rooks. Me and Sean Rooks are on the same team, and Dudley's playing on the other team. So Dudley goes to go for a rebound. Dudley's about 6'11". I'm 6'7". And so I box him out real good, and he goes, God, John, he goes, take it easy. I go, hey, Dud, I may be slow, old, and fat, but I'm not going to let you get the better of me tonight. And what was kind of funny, when I first got into coaching, I was still in college at USIU, and I was coaching baseball at Torrey Pines. And during lunchtime, we would always play pickup games with the coaches and the better players at Torrey. We'd play for 30 minutes, get a pretty good run in. And Chris Dudley was a young kid. He didn't play varsity basketball at Torrey Pines until he was a senior, and ended up going to play for Dick Cooch at Yale. But Dud would always sit in the stands and drink his little carton of milk and his little brown bag lunch with his high tops on, and nobody'd ever pick him because he wasn't a real good player. And then a guy ends up going and playing a dozen years in the NBA. And he lives in San Diego, and he's a great guy.
Speaking of Torrey Pines, John and I have talked about this. Isn't a Scott Pollard story unbelievable? I texted him and I sent him some videos of Scott Pollard having a heart transplant, and then he had setbacks. He had 2 more procedures. Now, this week, on the weekend, he checked out of the hospital with the whole hospital staff walking down the hallway, and he rang the bell at the Vanderbilt Medical Center. And it is so moving. So it was cool.
Well, I'll tell you, Scotty came to Torrey Pines. I coached one of his older brothers. He had several brothers, and they all played college basketball. But Neil Pollard was one of his brothers, and he played for us his senior year at Torrey Pines. And we had a great team. We won our league title. We went like 28-3, and he was a 7-footer. And then Scotty came a few years after that. And there were a lot of things that went on. Mr. Pollard had passed away. He was working for the Solana Beach, the city of Solana Beach, and he passed away, and the family moved up to Washington for a short period of time. So he played his junior year at Torrey, didn't play his senior year, but then came back and played. After basketball, he transferred back to Torrey so he could graduate from there. And I remember I was coaching baseball at the time, and I heard this knock on the locker room door, so I ran down there. All of a sudden, it's Scott Pollard. He was trying to get in the boys' locker room at 10:30 in the morning. Hey, Scotty, welcome back. And, he's a great kid. The kids at Torrey Pines absolutely loved him when he played there. He was just a good guy. Family were good people, and that really saddened me when I heard that story, about 3 months ago. But the way that story started out, looks like there's going to be a very happy ending.
Yeah, and the NBA interceded. They could not find a heart donor because he's such a big man at 6'11", 270. They needed a special type donor, and the NBA used its medical contacts to find the heart. And I was shocked. He
looks really good too.
Yeah, he had the surgery Friday night at Vanderbilt. Saturday morning, I saw video of him actually standing with all the medical trees.
He's a big boy to get up.
And walking. And his wife kept sending future videos. And then there were setbacks, and she'd alert us to the setbacks. And to see him walk down the hallway at the medical center
with
this
girls,
past weekend, with his kids, and ringing a bell, which means I'm going home. Just amazing. Now, setbacks can still occur. Rejections can occur. But, boy, what he's accomplished in the last couple of weeks.
But looking at his face.
Yeah.
big difference. I mean, just a big difference. And that's the smile I remember when he was a 15, 16-year-old kid at Torrey Pines High School.
Okay. John Riley, got a couple more you want to get to here?
I do. I got a couple more people that are just so excited to see the two of you together. Charlie Long says, Coach Kentera and Hacksaw has to be the Mount Rushmore of San Diego sports radio.
Yeah, damn right.
And then over here, Tracy says, Hacksaw and Coach Kentera, fond memories. Jeff says, man, Coach was right. So-called sports talk now has become music trivia games, favorite restaurant food reviews, and daily Taylor Swift Kelsey updates. Give me back the 690 days.
There's so much noise out there. That's the problem, is how do you pick and choose? When we did it, we were the first one on the street corner to do it, and that's what made it uniquely exceptional.
You know, Lee, my thoughts on it, I mean, everybody does their show differently. You know, you and I maybe are a little...
old school.
Well, old school, but, I mean, we love sports.
Yeah.
I mean, we still get excited about going down and watch a San Diego State football game on a Saturday night, where a lot of people nowadays, you know, they'd rather, you know, either watch it on TV or go to a cocktail party. And I've never been that way. You've never been that way. And I think there's still some guys on the air, or, you know, locally as well as nationally, that still, you know, really love sports for what sports is all about. But there are also a lot of guys doing what we do now that don't know.
Masquerading.
Well, a lot of them never even wore a jockstrap, to be honest with you. And they are masquerading, and that's why they don't like to take a lot of phone calls.
So, it was a different time. We did a really good job at what we did. Would have been nice to be appreciated. Do you know, and I've mentioned this to Coach, so I spent 28 years doing sports talk radio here, San Diego at 690, 1090, and then I went and did stuff for 3 years on the baseball channel on Sirius XM. Not one of the guys that I worked for, talking management, not one of them said, thank you, good job. How can that be? After you put up ratings and revenues and you do all this. And my lasting moment, when my contract expired finally at 1090 and prior to that 690, was walking into the general manager's office, and we're making a change. Here's the brown envelope. Sign here. That's my lasting memory of working for management. Geez, that's too bad. It shouldn't. I don't think it should be that way.
Yeah, it is what it is. And, you know, we've all been there. If you haven't been fired or let go from radio, they say you haven't really been in radio long enough.
Or it's coming.
Yeah, or it's coming. So, hey, onward and upward. Life is good, and it's been great. You got a couple more there, John? I'm kind of enjoying this. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. All right, maybe get some social media comments.
My wife is very happy that I'm talking with you guys today. She's tired of me giving her scores and rundowns of all the Lakers or the Padres in spring training.
I know, it's on social media. You always believe what's on social media, right?
Yeah.
She tweeted out, get him out of my kitchen.
Yeah.
All right, let's go here, get some social media comments. Talk second chances. I thought this was a good one from Sharon. He says, you keep giving these guys a second chance, you know, talking about Ariza and Bauer. You send a message to every single person that you can get away with bad behavior if you were good enough.
Well, the only response would be these guys did pay a price. You know, Bauer lost all of his endorsements. He lost $31 million in salary. He has lost 2 years of athletic ability you don't get back. Ariza's lost 2 years of pay, 2 years of athletic ability. As good as he might be with Kansas City, that's 2 years of athletic ability, earning power, and playing in a league you can't get. They paid a price for the stupidity. I went crazy. John had to sit me down, Coach. I said, my whole life's been in the National Football League. I can go through every roster, and I can tell you the guys that really committed some serious offenses that are playing in the NFL. DUIs, domestic abuse, guns, cocaine, PEDs. They paid a penalty, they're back. I thought Ariza got blacklisted. I thought he got blackballed. I thought it was a real shame. And since when, this will be insulting to say, I've said it before, since when is being stupid the thing that keeps you out of the NFL? Ariza, what he did was stupid at the point of his senior season. But I look at the rosters in the NFL, and there's a lot of guys that on really bad things have been charged, convicted, served time, and are back in the league. That kid should have been allowed back in the league. Once the charges were dropped, the lawsuits were settled.
Well, neither one of these guys have ever been incarcerated.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, it comes down to the discretion of an organization if they want to go that direction. Kansas City, obviously, watched, their personnel people. I mean, all these personnel, they've been watching what's going on here in San Diego. And, I'm a big believer in second chances. But, you got to still do your due diligence. You just don't say, hey, this guy's going to get a second chance. You got to do your work behind the scenes before you ever give him that second chance.
All right, John, next question, next social media comments.
Sure. And for the record, I'm supportive of Bauer and Ariza being back. Okay, let's go here and talk about the NFL draft and talk about Derek May. Not Derek May, Drake May. Drake May, pardon me. May's game is a combo of Rivers and Ben. The funny footwork, throwing motion, and release of Rivers, the size, strength, and athleticism of Ben.
He had to do a lot of that creative stuff, and he looks funky at times because he wasn't on a great team. He made that North Carolina team a really gifted team. You put him in a structure. Look what Roethlisberger became coming out of Miami of Ohio. He was just a wild-arm kid who was big and could run some, and they made him a great quarterback in Pittsburgh. It took him 18 months, 2 years, 2 seasons to finally become special. So May could be the next, John and I talked about this last week, the next coming to Ben Roethlisberger, and I would assume he's going number 2 right after Caleb Williams.
Well, I would certainly think. In fact, I remember talking to Tom Telesco at the Holiday Bowl a couple of years ago when North Carolina was here and they played Oregon. Telesco was there that night, and I guarantee he wasn't there to watch anybody else other than that quarterback. And, I do agree with you, Lee. He'll be the second player taken behind Caleb Williams. But I like him. I think he can move around well. He's got a really good arm. It looks like he's got good vision. It looks like he sees the field pretty well also.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in number 3. Jaden Daniels has rocketed the charts. He was kind of a one-man gang at LSU.
I don't know.
People are saying he's a third player in the pick. I said, boy, I don't know.
I don't see it myself, but, I don't know. I think those other 2 guys I feel a little more comfortable with.
And then further down, I'm a big Bo Nix fan, but he's a systems quarterback, and I like Michael Penix. I don't know if Penix is Tua, but he sure won a lot, and he sure made a lot of plays, and he didn't have a great team around him to begin with.
I like Penix better than I like Bo Nix. Bo Nix is older, and I don't know. I just don't see him being a starting quarterback in the National Football League, and I'm not sure I see Penix being a starting quarterback in the NFL.
And J.J. McCarthy?
Well, Jim Harbaugh thought he was going to be the first player taken. I don't see it. I mean, you know what? Throwing outside the numbers for him, I mean, he's got a good arm, but I don't think it's a great arm. And, I go back and I realize guys get better and, always are constantly, evaluating them and reevaluating them. But you go back to that playoff game against TCU 2 years ago. Man, that ball was going the other way because he was trying to throw those deep outs and he couldn't get it there. So, I don't know. He's a pretty athletic guy. Maybe if he goes to the right organization, but I can't imagine him being a first-round draft pick.
I didn't think so either. And as I told John Riley, he was surrounded by studs. Great running game, pretty good wide receivers, great defense.
An offensive line.
He wasn't carrying the burden of the world on his shoulders. He was just doing what he had to do because there were so many other good people around him that did great things. So, John Riley, this has been spectacular.
Oh, yeah.
This has been fun. I want to remind you, our podcasts brought to you by North County Eye Center, Poway and Escondido. You need help with your eyes? You need North County Eye Center. And by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 stores in San Diego. You got projects to get done. You need DIXIELINE Lumber. John Kentera, this was fun. We might have to have you back. A bunch of people have an outpouring, think we ought to be doing this every day. That's a lot of extra work. But John Riley, we apologize that your microphone in left field didn't work, but you'll be back with us too.
We roll with it, right?
And a reminder, Thursday, right before the NHL trading deadline, we will be talking a chunk of hockey, too, for our O Canada fans that join us every Monday and Thursday.
Hey, next time I come, and I don't know when that'll be, but I'm going to wear my New York Rangers jersey.
That's cool. I'll wear my Maple Leafs jersey, and Dummy here will wear his California Golden Seals clothes.
I know in your second coming, you want to be Terry Sawchuk.
No. Came from a hockey background, probably go back to a hockey background. Coach, it's been great. Hope you've enjoyed this. This is kind of cool. We'll get the opportunity to do this again.
Oh, it's great, Lee. Thanks for the invite, and thanks to Mr. Riley. What a great setup you guys have.
And thanks to you for being with us on Monday Bonus Podcast. We'll see you come Thursday.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast app.
Touchdown, San Diego!
For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.